Life. It's full of ups and downs, highs and lows, gains and losses, happiness and sadness, rejoicing and grief. The list is endless. What do you do when you experience these moments? How do you stay afloat when the storms of life surround you? We can only look to one for true joy and hope, Jesus. He is a promise keeper, a way maker, and is the foundation of a life rooted in everlasting hope, joy, peace, love, and so much more. Join us on this journey as we take a deep dive into living the Sonshine Life.
Well, welcome everybody to the Sonshine Life. My name is Josiah. My name is Josiah, and I'm the current executive director at Camp Sonshine. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. This is our second Sonshine Life event that we've done this year, and I'm excited for you to join us on our journey as we figure out, what are we doing here? What is this? And being obedient to what we believe God is calling us to next. As David said, to not only, grow in community together in our camp families and friends and family in the area, but also to grow closer in our relationship to God. And so today, we're going to talk about the question of what makes Camp Sonshine so special. What's going on? Why do people come back to this place year over year? Is it, the ice cream at the snack shack? I'm sure a lot of campers would tell you that's what it is. That's what makes camp so special. And a few staff members that spend a little too much money there. But also, maybe it's the go-karts. Maybe it's all the fun activities that we do. Or, maybe it's the staff training that makes camp so special. And I think all of those things add a lot of value. Don't get me wrong. I think they make Camp Sonshine great. But I think there's stuff happening beneath the surface at Camp Sonshine every single summer that I think we can take from, like David said, to ultimately live the Sonshine Life every day, to have sunshine in our hearts. And last month, if you're here, we talked about what is one of those things, and that was faith. Faith is something that really Camp Sonshine was founded on, what Sonshine Life is being founded on, and how, in our daily pursuit of God, despite whatever's going on, that leads to so many amazing things, leads to the fruits of His Spirit, leads to so many amazing things that we can live in abundance. And so today, what else is there? Are we going to talk about ice cream today and all of our favorite flavors? Or are we going to talk about something else maybe that's going on underneath the surface at Camp Sonshine? And before I give that away, I wanted to talk about this really cool story. It's real, that happened recently. And so in February, last month, if you're up to date with everything going on, we have, every year, we create Facebook groups. And here's a little snippet I'll share in a minute of something that someone said in a Facebook group. They said it recently in February, but from a group that was made years ago. So Facebook, if you don't know, they have Facebook groups. And if you're like me, you might be in a few of them. I'm in there's Buy Nothing, where you can get free stuff from people that don't want to sell it. They just give away things in their house. Or, I'm in quite a few wedding Facebook groups because I got married in October. And there's so many things out there where you can buy, sell, trade, get discounted stuff. And, if anyone needs 75, gold votive candles, let me know. Still trying to get rid of those. But there's these Facebook groups that are online, and the idea really is to have an online community. And so we use this platform every summer for our staff. So, for example, this summer we have a Facebook group. It's called, Camp Sonshine Summer 2024 Staff. And as we hire people throughout the year, we add them to this Facebook group. And all year long, leading up to the summer, we'll share announcements in there, or here's a fun would you rather, so that we can, as best we can, connect with our team before they even show up. And so, 2024 and 2019, we created a Facebook group. And a girl who was a staff member that summer posted in it this past month. And normally, people only post in this kind of leading up to the summer, maybe sometimes during the summer, and then no one really uses it. If you've been at camp for a while, you're probably laughing because you probably have a bunch of Facebook groups that you've never gone into if you've been at camp for a while. So it was kind of shocking to see that someone posted in one of these groups, and it was from 5 years ago in 2019 when it was created, but she posted last month. And she goes, you can read if you can from here. It says, "Hey, Rays of Sunshine, 5 years on." I'm guessing that's how they say 5 years ago or something in New Zealand. But she goes, I'm wanting to soar across the seas to Europe this year from about July to mid-October, and I'd love to catch up with, maybe stay a couple nights with people, whoever I can. And here's my favorite part: from the best summer camp ever. I think that's great. She enjoyed her time. And that she says, I don't have flights booked yet, but I'm planning to solo travel and want to see lots of people.
she said Euros, or anyone that may be planning on also going too. I absolutely love and miss you all a lot. The kiwi that wants to fly. And if you don't know, in New Zealand, their national bird is a kiwi, and so they call themselves kiwis sometimes. But what's going on here? Why did she post this? And I think this is what we can take from here is what is another thing that makes Camp Sonshine so special, to where someone that worked at camp 5 years ago is posting again in a Facebook group that, I want to travel, and what's going to cost her? And from July to October, I don't know if you guys look at flights anymore, but they're ridiculously expensive, and she's going from New Zealand all the way to the UK, and it's all because she had a great experience for a few months 5 years ago. And I would argue that at the root of everything that's going on here, she's yearning for something, and I believe that is intimacy. And I believe that really matters, and that's one of those things that makes Camp Sonshine so special. And that's what we want to talk about today, which is ultimately the intimacy challenge. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if I would really do that. I think, friendships, especially in America, it's really sad. But what is more normal, it's not spending lots of money and traveling for months to see people across the world. What's more normal, right, is maybe when it's on my calendar, I've done everything else I need to do, and also maybe because it feels like the right thing to do, I'll travel a few hours to see family. Or maybe it's more like, okay, I've done all my me time, I've done what I like to do, I have some spare moments, it's really convenient for me, so I'll go see that friend that's 20 minutes away. I think we all need intimacy, but how we treat that doesn't look like it all the time. And so my challenge for us today is to talk about this intimacy challenge. And what is an intimacy challenge? It's wanting and doing something about a deeper relationship with not just other people, but more importantly, God, and how that relationship ultimately impacts every other relationship that you have. And, I could go on and on about all the ways in the Bible that God talks about relationships and why they matter. And honestly, really good tools for us to learn how to do this. I mean, it talks about intimacy in marriage. It talks about, yes, how to even love your enemies, how to love your neighbor. There's so many things that I could stand up for hours and talk about, or, grab my Bible and just read. But I really want to hone in today on the importance of that, yes, those relationships matter, but ultimately what matters most is your relationship with God. And I have, this photo of apples to apples cards. And if you have ever played apples to apples, great. If you haven't, you should definitely play. It's a fun card game. It's one of my top favorites. And when you see this, you may be questioning, why is Josiah showing this? Or, are we going to talk about pancakes and vacuum cleaners and underwear today? Or, maybe when you see this, you're reminded of the last time you played, or maybe after this, you want to go home and play apples to apples. But for me, when I see this little fun cartoon of apples to apples, what comes to my heart is, to be honest, yearning for intimacy. And it may sound weird, but why that's true for me is because 5 years ago, this past December, I was in a life and death situation. I was in a car accident that almost cost my life, and for a long period of time, I was in the hospital where I fought for my life, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all ways, asking all these questions, what is going on here? And what helped me get through everything is, one, God, I think, healing me, but two, the people that showed up. It was the people that showed up in my life that, sure, I thought may show up and visit me in the hospital, but people that showed up, and that showed up consistently, to where even though I had, I don't know how many cords hanging out of me, I lost 40 pounds, I didn't look so great, I looked kind of scary, looked like a zombie, that still showed up. Not just at my best, but at my worst. And apples to apples, they played with me. And, I wasn't very strong, so sometimes I would point, move that card, or that's my choice. But that brought me joy. And I could talk about that story also for hours and hours. But what I wanted to share for this is that, if I were to look back at that experience, or, back then or even today, that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is that relationships, and more importantly, intimacy, is so crucial to the success of our life. And it's crazy because the nurses would tell me as well, there was a moment where they kind of were arguing around if they should let me out of the hospital, even though it was going to hurt me more physically, for the sake of all these other things going on, mentally, emotionally, all this stuff. And the reason why I believe they didn't need to do that is because of the relationships that I have, and what they said, you are blessed that you have people visiting you. I was in shock trauma in Baltimore, and I saw people die on the floor around me. And I argue that part of it, yes, They experienced some tough things physically, but I didn't see as many people visit them. And so I'm incredibly blessed to have people visit me and have friends and family that show up. And so, I think there's something to take from this. And there's so many, I think, things out there. There's books, right? I think there's great examples. There's fun quotes of how do we pursue intimacy. Because like me, I'm sure if you were to take a moment and think through what are some things that, I've experienced in my life. Maybe it wasn't a car accident. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it's tension even now with a friend, or maybe it was something that happened recently or years ago that you've never really dealt with. I think we live in a broken world, and it's full of sin, and unfortunately we've experienced hard stuff. God he doesn't promise us an easy life. That's when we get to heaven. But right now, we've experienced tough things here on earth, and I think what really matters is the people in your life, and more importantly, like I said before, the relationship with Jesus. And so we want to talk about this. We want to talk about the intimacy challenge. And like I said, there's so many, I think, resources, even outside of what God says, that are helpful. Like I found there's levels to intimacy. And so the first level is, safe communication. So that's basically saying, you're willing to share, hi, my name is Josiah, and my favorite color is orange. Or level 2, if you're ready to take it up a notch, you can share other people's beliefs, other people's opinions, but not yours yet, right? And then the next step is, I'm now willing to share my opinion and belief. And unfortunately, I believe a lot of friendships end here. And it's really sad to see. It's part of cancel culture. It's part of that whole idea that, when I say something that you don't agree with and you can't handle that, then we're no longer friends. And I think that's really sad. And level 4, we're taking it up even higher. My feelings and experiences. Now we're actually sharing our feelings with people, whether we know how to define them or not, and also our experiences. And level 5, where they would argue that this is ultimately where intimacy happens, where true love is found, is when we're able to share our deepest needs with people. We're able to share our deepest emotions, our greatest desires, our hopes and dreams. And I don't know about you, but if you were to look at all of your relationships, you may have a mix. You may have some people where it's like, all we talk about, is our favorite colors. Where you may have other people, probably family members, where you're willing to share your deepest needs. I don't know about you, but it's hard to ask for help. But that's part of intimacy. And, at camp, too, we talk a lot about relationships and why they're great. And lots of people get married from camp. It's part of what happens here. But intimacy happens at camp because we value it. And we have tons of fun quotes. One of my favorites that I truly believe in is our life tends to go as well as our relationships. Or the classic, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Or, you are the average of your 5 closest friends. Sometimes I like to reword this one and say, you are the average of your 5 closest influences. And these are all great, like I said, and I think those 5 levels, it's a great language to use, the great tools, but all this stuff, they're going to miss something, and that's the truth that only God can bring. And so that's what we want to talk about today, and that's what we're going to talk about in a little bit, actually, because we're going to break up into little groups and get a little intimate and get a little uncomfortable and ask some questions to see where are we at with all this relationship stuff, where are we at with all this intimacy stuff. And so if you can go to the next slide, that first quote, I really believed in it. I've always believed in it. But I believe what's true and what's actually more important is that our life tends to go as well as our relationship with Jesus and also our pursuit of intimacy with him. And, I gave those examples of like the friend that maybe, in their free moments will go visit that friend. I think we treat Jesus in the same way. Are you the type of person who, because you think it's the right thing to do and you've, checked everything off your to-do list, that's when you then show up to church and that's what you feel like will help you in your relationship with God. Or maybe it's, when I have a spare moment, I've gotten my me time and, I'm ready to go. Now I'm going to spend time with Jesus. Or when I need something, right? Or are we going to maybe take that step of faith to say, no, I want to be like that staff member who is willing to go through costs, to seek intimacy, to seek relationships that she has. And I want to challenge us to do that today, to take a deeper look into one, yes, I think our earthly relationships, but also our relationship with God. And so if we go to the next slide, I have some questions for our breakout. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to break out, I have these questions, and we're going to spend 7-10 minutes, not very long, we might not get through all of them, just to consider where are we at with all of this intimacy stuff? Where are we at with our relationships, because if our life tends to go as well as our relationships, and more importantly, our life tends to go as well as our relationship with Jesus, I think this really, really matters. But I just want to encourage you that, I think our answers to these questions are a really great way to see where we're at, right? With where we're at in our relationships, in our pursuit of intimacy, understanding intimacy, and also just our relationship with God. And if you didn't get a chance to, answer all of them, I'd encourage you to do that another time. And because I think it's a good way, to gauge where we're at in our relationships, what we value, what we don't value. But like I kind of said before, I think there's tons of tools out there that give us great, examples and guides on how to pursue intimacy, why relationships are important, why our life tends to go as well as them. But again, I think there's truth that can only come from God, to where we experience real intimacy, to where we experience the abundance that overflows from a relationship with him, where we experience the fruits of his Spirit, where we experience joy and peace. Last month we talked about faith, and not just faith in big things, but also in the mundane things on Monday mornings. Like, are you waking up going, amen, today is a new day. I am blessed and I'm highly favored. There is breath in my lungs. Today is a miracle. I'm so excited. Or is it, oh gosh, Monday, I got to go to work. This is terrible. I need coffee or I'm going to die, right? See? But I think faith matters in also our pursuit of Jesus, because when we do that, we experience what he can provide. And where we do that is by pursuing intimacy with him, by pursuing relationship. And I love in Matthew this verse that he talks about kind of Jesus' answer in some way to how we can practically almost do this. And the Pharisees and the Sadducees in the Bible times were very against a lot of what Jesus was saying. They didn't believe he was the Son of God. And I love in Matthew, it says, but when the Pharisees, Matthew 22, 34 through 40, it says, but when the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered themselves together. One of them, the smart guy, thought, here we go, I got a good question. A lawyer asking Jesus a question, testing him. He says, hoping he slips up or something. I don't know what they're trying to do. But they just didn't like him. Whatever. Teacher, what is the great commandment on the law? And he said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and foremost commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets. How many of you would say in your friendships that you love your friends with all your heart and soul and mind? I know sometimes I don't. Some of you probably do. But what about family? Would you say your family, you love your family with your whole heart, your soul, and your mind? And, more importantly, what about God? The God that loves you far more than you could ever imagine, the one who knows every hair on your body. Do you love him with all your soul, with all your heart, and with all your mind? And I love in Revelation 3 where it talks about that Jesus is knocking at your door. We have this photo here that kind of just shows a picture of how God feels about you, and that we not only want to pursue intimacy with him, but that he, because he's the creator of intimacy, wants that with you. He wants a relationship with you. And this is a great photo describing that even though we wrong him, that we've crucified him on a cross, that he still knocks at the door of our heart asking for a relationship with us, asking to invite him in so that he can sit and dine with us. And my question today is, are we willing to do that? Because I think when the God of the universe is knocking at our own hearts and saying, I want relationship with you, I want intimacy with you, what's our response to that? Is it every now and then when it's, on our own terms that we spend time with him? Or maybe we have that level one, right, intimacy where we thank God for our beds and we thank God for our french fries and that they nourish our bodies? Or are we taking it to the next level and saying, you know what, I'm going to share with God my biggest needs in life. I'm going to share with God my frustrations. I'm going to share with God my biggest dreams, because he is someone that can do something about it. And knowing that and believing that for your life. Or are we going to be that friend that, when I know it's kind of the right thing to do, so I'll do it, and also make sure it's on my calendar that I'll show up to church, or I'll drive maybe a few hours, and that's a good enough, right, cost to go spend time with God. Or will we be maybe like that staff member who 5 years later, because of a yearning for intimacy that she once had, is taking a step to say yes again to those relationships, and at the cost of who knows how much those flights are, and the time for months at a time to go and do that. Are we willing to do that? Because Jesus died on the cross for us, and he is constantly knocking at the door, waiting for us to open it. And so I want to encourage you today to take this intimacy challenge, to pursue God, because like we said, our life tends to go as well as our relationships, right? And if the most important relationship is that with God, and that the way we do that is pursuit of intimacy, then either way, our life is going to tend to go as well as relationships. It swings both ways. And I don't know about you, but I want to live a life that God provides and what he says in his word that he can do. And so my questions to end today are very similar to that of last month, because I want to leave us with a challenge, and I encourage you by the end of the night tonight, before you go to bed, to answer these two questions. It's more of one with the part A, part B. And this is the exact same thing I challenged us with last month, except I've added one word. What is one thing that you can do to pursue intimacy with God every single day? And who is that one person that can help you do that? We need accountability. We need help. And if you don't know how to answer these questions or who even to turn to, maybe when I brought up my story and how the people in my life helped me get through so many things, and I don't know how I'd be standing here today if I didn't have them. Maybe I don't even have those people. I don't have anyone that would ever show up for me. Or if they do, they're not going to be very helpful. I just want to encourage you that is the purpose and the reason for Sonshine Life. That is why we're here. It's to be a place for people who don't know how to answer questions can come with questions, can come to where we can form a community to answer these questions. And if you ever see anyone with a little, how can I help? They're ready to have that conversation with you. They have some examples to where, how can we do this? How can we practically grow in relationship and, more importantly, intimacy with our Heavenly Father? And also, if you don't have anyone that can hold you accountable, maybe you have some friends and family, but you're like, listen, I've tried to have them help me in the past and it hasn't worked. We would love to do that for you. We'll text you. We'll call you. We would love to be that community that you need in life. And so as we come to a close, we're going to sing another song, and I'd urge you to pray over this challenge, to pray over, where in your life, maybe those discussion questions as well, to pray over these things and ask God, would you open up my heart to reveal the things in me that I need to take steps of faith towards? Where in my relationships, not just with God, but with people, do I need to maybe take steps of faith? Do I maybe need to, prioritize them over me time, right? And so as we come to close, I just want you to pray over these things. Again, what is one thing you can do to pursue intimacy with God every single day? And then who is one person that can help you do that? Because if our life tends to go as well as our relationships, and the most important relationship is that with God, and he is yearning, knocking at the door for intimacy with us, I think we should respond to that. So let's pursue intimacy today. Let's pursue relationship, not just with each other, but with God.